Hi, I'm SBJ and welcome to SBJ's Painting School. This is episode 3? I think it's 3, maybe 2. 3, it's episode 3. And today we are going to be going through all of the different colour swatches that I've been working on. So originally I promised that I'd just be doing 2, which I'd previously decided was going to be white and yellow because selfishly they were colour swatches I wanted to work on. But instead I've worked on quite a few, so I'm going to show you those in a second. So without further ado, let's have a look at the painting table and I'll see you guys in a sec. Okay, so here's what we're going to be painting today. So we've got a wagon, truck, body shell that's come off just a cheap Hornby truck from the 90s. We're going to paint that. We're going to paint this in sort of like a grey, and we're going to really heavily weather this one along the line. I like these because they have lots of little nooks and crannies that that dirt and grime can get stuck into, which is especially great for the particular type of oil weathering that we're going to be doing on this. So I'm looking forward to getting this done. This has been sprayed with a black Halford's primer and then has been given a light dusting of grey primer with the airbrush, just to sort of give it almost like a zenithal highlight in there, which we're going to be bringing up as we go along. And then we've got our 2 tank sides that we're going to be using during this process. We're going to be painting one of them white and one of them yellow. The reason for that is for very selfish reasons. I am looking at doing a new army, and white and yellow are 2 of the big contenders, plus they are fantastic colours for showing weathering effects on and all the different grimy colours that you can get out of that. So what I'll do is I'll show you the different colour palettes that we're going to be using so that you can either find a colour in your collection that matches or is very similar, and we'll go from there. What I am going to do as well is, because I want to show some other techniques that we can use at this particular point, I'm also going to be masking off these sections here. I could spray one of these a different colour, which I may do, you'll see in a second. And then we're going to mask it off so that you can see what it's like to mask it off and how easy that process is if you plan all of this ahead. What I have also done is, because I wasn't happy with just doing 2 colours, I have also done a colour swatch of other colours that I think you'll find useful, and if you wait until the very end of this episode you will be able to see the recipes for using these particular colours. Now, one thing I did find a big problem when trying to take pictures of these colours is I wasn't necessarily getting how they look in real life through the camera. So hopefully this method, with a better lighting and a bit more sort of not a bright stark light or a really warm light, is sort of in the middle, hopefully pick them up a little bit better. So if you are a Horus Heresy player, you may recognise some of these colour schemes. This is an Iron Warriors-esque scheme, a lot of metallics with some accent colours of black. Usually you'll see a lot of chevrons along the way. So when you do the door on this one, you could do chevrons on that so that it would bring out the yellows and blacks, which is a colour that you see a lot when you're working with Iron Warriors. We've got this green, which most people will mock me for several reasons, but one of them being that a lot of the armies I've painted recently have all been this particular green scheme, and it's because I love that particular green scheme. It's exceedingly easy to use, and it would work great for a Salamander's green scheme. But I used it in my Mechanicum scheme and an Enforcer scheme for Necromunda. This black one, it looks better on the camera than it did when I took photos of it, so I'm happy with that. It's a very subtle highlight on this one, but it looks really stark when I took pictures with my own phone. The reason for that is because you don't necessarily want to have just black and grey as your colours, so I've used a little bit of a different colour in there as well to hopefully make it pop a little bit more without taking it away from this is black. This would be a fantastic point where you could do some really good accent colours to go in these bits here. This is why the Rhino parts are great, because you can pick your colour schemes and then you can sort of make your colour swatch of the different colours that are going to make up your army, or coaches if you will. This blue, it is probably a little bit more aggressive than my old Alpha Legion colour, but I really enjoy doing it. I've if I was going to redo my entire Alpha Legion, I would probably do it in this blue because I like the aggressiveness, and then when you go over it with all of your weathering, it tones it down a little bit. Once again, great space for, most of these seem to be black as a really good accent colour for these, but there's a lot of good contrasting colours that you can use to make these pop as well. Then you've got this red scheme, which would be good for, I'd say, Blood Angels. Now this is the one that photographed the worst out of all of them. For some reason it just all blends in very nicely rather than giving you that nice contrast from the really dark tones up to the really light tones. But once again, like I really like this. I'd put a black or maybe even a white accent colour on there to help that pop. Then this last one is what I'd call the Sons of Horus colour scheme, and this one also didn't photograph too well because it basically looked very similar to this one, but in real life this is very much a more green than blue. As I said, if you're interested in any of these particular colours, stick around to the end and I'll be showing you all of the different colour swatches and the colours I use for all of them. Every single one of these was primed with a Halfords Black primer, and it's probably worth mentioning actually that the Halfords Black primer is not listed as a primer, it's just a matte finish black. I don't know why, because it works exactly as the Chaos Black primer that you use for GW. So yeah, so along with the episodes you'll see me adding little bits to these as well off camera, but they will be there to help us make some decisions, and along the way we'll be adding in accent colours, contrasting colours and things like that. So yeah, today I'm going to be working on this wagon and we're going to be working on these armour sides. So we're going to have our white and yellow. Let's get started by having a look at the different colours that we're going to be using. So with this wagon, it's quite a simple scheme. I don't think I'm going to be using much to actually paint this one other than Model Air Grey. Now this is Model Air Light Grey 71.050 or Gris Claro. Gris Claro? I've butchered that. And that's the colour I'm going to be using as a mainstay on this. Trying to do panel highlights to pick out sort of the wear and tear on the colours, but then when we start doing the weathering it'll helpfully blend it all together. Moving on to the blue, we're going to be using just two colours on this one. Now we've got our black start there. I might add a little bit of grey primer quickly to it just to help the other colours, but we're basically just going to be using sky blue by scale 75 and white, which is 71.001 by Model Air. Basically we're going to start with the blue and just slowly add more and more white as it goes, and the reason we're using for the blues is because it creates a nice recessed colour rather than just going straight white. You can also do this same thing with starting with a dark grey or a brown and things like that and working your way up to the white. I find that the transition between these two is a lot nicer, plus when you start adding your weathering techniques later down the line, because you're using blue rather than brown, you're not going to have that problem of the brown sort of bleeding into each other and not looking as poppy. And then with the yellow, this one is a little bit more complicated, but hopefully it comes out nicely. This is a new sort of technique for doing yellow for me, because all the stuff I've done on trains I've literally just used Avalanche Sunset by Games Workshop or Citadel. But what we're going to do is we are going to start with Burnt Umber, and rather than sort of doing the whole thing in Burnt Umber, we're just going to do the recess work with Burnt Umber, or parts where it meets, and you can get a nice little almost like dark areas on it, and that's just so that it adds a, once again, like with the blue, it's not going to be the main colour, but you'll be able to see it's there. Then leave that there. Then we are going to move in with Yellow Ochre, and this one is pretty much going to be our darkest base colour, but once again we're not going in too heavy with it, we're just going to sort of go in, and our big mid-tone is going to be the Avalanche Sunset, and then eventually we will finish with a bit of medium yellow and with just a very small amount of Soul Yellow to add a little bit of pop later down the line. Okay, so we're going to start with the wagon body here, and for this one, as I said, I am literally just going to be using light grey, and that's just to add some nice highlights on it so that when we start weathering it they'll be able to sort of bring all of it together but also make it pop where we need it to. All I'm going to be using with this one is the Vallejo Airbrush Flow Improver. As I said in my previous video, with the Model Air stuff you don't really need to add any thinner to it. You can, I don't tend to. So yeah, let's get started. Also worth mentioning, as it may have been missed in my previous video, I will be using my mask. As you can see, this has had a few years of use out of it. It is a 3M mask, and yeah, I'm going to be using this. I will also have the windows open just to allow the air to sort of flow through the house. I will not be using a spray booth. That is my own personal decision. I will be masked up for the period that I'm airbrushing to protect my own lungs, and windows open to allow the air to flow through. Okay, so that was actually extremely quick to do. It's why I love this particular highlighting method, using an airbrush where you're doing panel highlights. Now you may have seen me there going and basically starting in the middle of each panel and then working my way out, and you always want the brighter part of it to be the center of the panel. Now if I was using more highlights, like adding a white or something like that in here, I could very much do so. I literally just make sure that each time I'm adding a new layer, I'm going less to the outside. Now these are big empty or plain panels on here, so I don't need to necessarily do that, whereas you can see on the bits of the doors or the shutters, I've not gone anywhere near as heavy on those, and what I've done is I've actually just done little dots of paint in the center of those, and when we start weathering that, you'll start seeing all the recesses and everything pop on there and hopefully make everything go tazal, or however you want to. But yeah, same on this bit, there's a lot of texture here, so what I've done is I've tried to go in and just do little areas of it, whereas on the other end it's a little bit more open, and you can see that panel highlight look on there as well. And this is pretty much all I'm going to be doing color wise with this, because I'm just going for this light grey as the actual wagon color. I haven't done the bottom because I'm going to be adding loads in here later down the line. You'll also have seen that with some of the primer I will have missed, and there'll be sort of the original brown colour like underneath here with the wagon. Now because that's inside and because we're going to be weathering this quite heavily, I'm not so fussed about this, because we're going to be weathering it so much that it's the colour of like the rusts and the dirt and the grime and stuff like that anyway, so we're going to be adding to that, and that's just going to help accentuate that in those corners. And yeah, we're just going to be covering it up so much that it almost wasn't a problem, whereas on the outside you kind of want it to be perfect to start with and then sort of work on it. But yeah, I also did just a straight cover with the airbrush, just went along the lines of the top bit here. Once again, that's going to be chipped away. It's going to be dirty, filthy by the time we're finished with this, but that's all you need to do for this one. So if you wanted a rough idea of how to do the panel highlighting that I do, that's a quick way of doing it. What you're going to see on the next couple of pieces is how we add the colours and how we sort of step through those colours for it. So yeah, on to next, tank number 1. Okay, so before I forget, I wanted to just sort of go over the whole cleaning the airbrush thing in between, because it's something that I realised I talked about but didn't actually show. So what I've done is I have emptied the hopper of all of the leftover grey that was in here. Now, there wasn't much in here, so because I knew I wasn't going to use a lot. What I've done is I've then used a wet wipe to get rid of all of the residue from the hopper. Then I've added a little bit of my water IPA mix, and then I'm going to use an old brush, and I'm just going to put it in there, put it in the hopper, and just basically making sure that I'm hitting the needle as you can see it through the hopper. Now you might not have this ability to be able to do this particular part if you've got your needle obscured from anything, but then what I do is put my finger over the end here. Now if you've got a flat end like on my Neo Iota, you can literally just put your finger on the end here, but with my Infinity, I have to press and hold that, and then I literally just push on the air. You'll get a little bit of a noise there, depending on how high your pressure is, and I'm just going to pull it back just a little bit. Don't do it too much, because otherwise you'll get lots of paint and water just squirt out the top. And all it's doing is it's basically creating a little bubble bath, or a little jacuzzi in there, and it's getting all of the paint that was trapped in the in the line, and it's bringing it all back up so that you've got it all in this hopper bit here. So now, excuse the mess, I can use my little bucket, tip it away, and I can just flush out any little bits that are left in there, and little bits of water, and it's all coming out clean now in here. It's all just water, and then I'm just going to use this again, just give it a little clean, and there you go. And if you were to put water in there, or airbrush cleaner or whatever, it would probably come out a little bit clearer. You might get little clumps of the colours that you were last working with in there. If you are going in a gradient from your darkest to lightest, lightest to darkest, however you paint, that's not necessarily a problem. But if you are switching from one colour, say red, and then going over to yellow, you want to make sure that this is super, super clean. And this is when you might quickly use some airbrush cleaner, or you just use a bit of paper and you're just testing to make sure that the colours that are coming out, or the water that's coming out, is clean. Likewise, you could put a little bit of the yellow in here and test it out on some paper to see if it's coming out of a little tinge of red in it. But yeah, that's it. That's the little cleaning process, the little jacuzzi method that I use. I thought I'd quickly go over that in between us moving on to a new colour. So yeah, let's go on to the next tank. Okay, so the next colours we're going to be working on is the white colour, and I'm going to be starting with this scale 75 sky blue and working my way up to the white. Now this one's different because we're basically only using two colours and we're just transitioning from one to the other basically, and it all depends on how much of a blue tinge you want on your colours. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to do the blues especially around the recesses, and once I've done that I can start sort of working my way up with the whites, and then going from there. I did say I was going to show you a little masking method, so I'm going to want to keep the little side bits here black, so I'm just going to quickly go grab my masking stuff. So what I'm going to do here to mask up these little black bits here is I'm going to use this liquid mask. This is by Vallejo. They do it in a smaller bottle if you want to give it a try. You can also buy the Humbrol Maskal, and there's other various ones that you can use for this process. In the previous video, Jodie mentioned about getting some of the putty, which is basically like a fake blue tack that you use. However you so wish to do it, you can also do it with tape. Me personally, on an area like this, it is very easy to just quickly cover it with liquid mask. But what you could do is you could combine the two and put a couple of strips of tape on the straighter areas where you can, and then just sort of do the edges with this. However you so wish. I'm just going to do it with this for now. I'm using an old brush that I have solely for using liquid mask, because even when you put it in the water it does ruin your brushes even when you try to clean it. So I have one brush. I've probably gone through quite a few old brushes using mask or liquid mask. Just use this one. As soon as you find that you're not getting any kind of point on the end of it, probably time to sort of chuck the brush. But yeah, it does also smell of fish. Like, it has this awful smell to it, but it does a good job at what it does. So all I'm going to do is just quickly grab a little bit on here. Now you can be as sorry, me concentrating, can't do two things at once. You can be as generous with this as you want, but you have to work quick on the area that you're working on, because it does start to set quite quickly. And what happens is, if it sets before you are finished and you put your brush over there, you could pull away at the stuff you've just put down. So what I'm going to do is, I know that we're going to be using dirt, grime and stuff, so I don't need to be perfect with this. All I'm trying to do is just mask off this bit, because no matter what colour we've prepared this with, whether it's black or let's say we wanted to use white as a nice contrasting colour or an accent colour, I don't want to undo that lovely work, so I'm just going to go over it with this. And as I say, using tape will mean that you get as flat a surface as possible to do this, but using Maskal, I keep calling it Maskal, it's not. Using liquid mask will mean that you can be quick at what you're doing, and it is your personal preference. As I say, I weather the hell out of everything I do, so I'd like to think that this will be covered up anyway. We're just going to do that there, and we're going to leave that to dry for about 5-10 minutes. The thinner you put it on, the quicker it dries. Stu, Hobby Sensei Stu, he gave me a really good piece of advice for getting this off, and that is you wet a cocktail stick, and with that wet cocktail stick you basically sort of use it and you twist it over the top of it and it will pull away, which you'll see towards the end. But I'm not going to wash this, I'm just going to put this somewhere where it's not going to cause any harm. If you want to try and get the excess off, you can. If anybody's ever had any luck with cleaning their brushes with liquid mask or mask oil, then please let me know. But yeah, we're going to let that sit there. That way the nice black that we've already done is protected and we don't have to go over it again with black, and it saves us a little bit of a job. So yeah, I'll see you in a sec when we start painting. Okay, so here we are. We have gone from black through to blue up to white. Now I've turned my light down to try and make it so that you can see it, because when I have my light on full, it kind of washes the whole thing out. Even if, because that's on quite a warm light at the moment, if I go to quite a cool light, which is what I usually work with if I'm not filming, that's my preferred natural light. But when you're filming, it doesn't really give you what you need. So if I turn my light right down now, you should be able to see. Let's see if changing it to a warmer light helps. Sort of. So yeah, so this is the kind of level that I want from the white that I'm going to be using. Once you start adding all your weathering and your accent colours and stuff like that in there, and like popping details like doing the tracks and stuff down here, you're going to notice that the blue's not going to be as obvious. And what I'm going to do in a second is I'm going to take off the liquid mask so you can see how that makes it pop a little bit more. So bear with me one sec. Okay, so this is where it all goes wrong whilst you're filming, but I'm happy with the colour white. Hopefully you can sort of get what I'm going for, where I've left blue bits in certain corners. I've done the white going from the blue up to the white. I've sort of, each time I've done a new layer, I've done less on an area. So these areas over here where the wheel pins are, I've almost left this part that dark blue, but where the overspray from the white has gone on, it's created that nice sort of blend transition. And one of the best things about when you're going from colour to colour and you're just slowly adding new colours into it is you're getting that really nice blend. And it's why I try to not fully wash out the colour from the previous batch, because then you've still got remnants of, so for example, if I'm going later down the line, if I'm going from this Avalanche Sunset up to this very stark difference of yellow, me doing a half tone where I have a little bit of Avalanche Sunset left in, or Avalanche Sunset, and then you add in a bit of medium yellow and mix those two together, it means that the difference between them is not going to be as jarring when you then go to just the medium yellow. So hopefully you'll be able to see that in here, because as I say, it's really difficult to, let's see if I turn the light off completely. Oh, okay, yeah, that's actually quite good. The lighting in here is terrible, but for some reason my camera's picking it up a lot better. So yeah, see, at the moment you can see we've got just little bits of blue. Now, if I take that liquid mask off, let's see, put it down into the corner. So what I'm doing is I'm going for somewhere around here, and all I'm doing is I'm just slowly turning the toothpick round. And what it does is, because it's sticky, once it sort of grabs itself, you just keep turning it, and you will get bits that are left that you can go and attach, but you can just see it's just basically picking itself up along the way, which is super handy because you don't have to scrape it off or anything like that. You can literally just, almost like you're making candy floss. Anyone who's ever worked at a carnival or a stand before. And it's not an aggressive thing to use, so effectively I could almost use it like a rubber and rub it over the top there, and that's left me with a nice black area tacked as a nice contrasting bit for our white. Now, as I say, you could do different colours of this, and if I was using this for, say, white scars or something like that, where I wanted an accent colour, contrasting colour to be, it's quite difficult. I don't know if there's a contrasting colour for white. I'd say it's more of an accent colour, but if I wanted to put that white accent colour in there, the red accent colour, sorry, it would help it pop a little bit more. And all I've done to get that off is I've literally just used it like, you're not going to focus, there you go. Used it, and I've just put it in one corner, softened the end by putting it in some water, and I've just turned it, and all it's done is it's picked more and more up there. And it leaves us with that, which at the moment it looks like a weird whitey blue with some black bits on it. So what we'll do is, next step we'll go on this will be a case of just sort of painting in the bits along here to add more colour to it, and then after that we're going to be weathering with different techniques depending on what I decide. So now we're going to move on to the yellow and give you the same thing. And as you saw during the video, whilst it was sped up, I used my glove, and because it's a black glove, it means that I can quickly give a little spray, test where my bite point is on my airbrush, and I can just sort of go on here, and when I put a colour in, I just pull it back so I know where the bite point is, and then on the end of this airbrush you can adjust how far the pin or the needle goes back by using this. When I'm cleaning, I pull it right back and just go for it. But yeah, I don't have to turn it much, and that already gives me a lot of control of what I can do. And by using your glove to sort of test where everything is, it gives you an idea of, okay, that's too far, let's tighten it up a little bit. Brilliant. Okay, so I get a lot more control when it's at that level. And you can see every time I added a bit of white, I just tested to see what the contrast compared to the previous colour was. And it goes from the dark blue to the lighter blue to the white blue. And even though I cleaned my airbrush out on that very last run, there were still tiny bits of blue probably trapped on the needle, which was fine because I've already got that blue in here. So using it with the white, it still blends in nicely and it still came out white. So yeah, that's the white. Let's move on to the yellow. Okay, we're now going to work on the yellow, but what I've done is I've taken out the yellow ochre and the soul yellow for now. What I want to do is I want to use the burnt umber to create that dark recess colour, and the avalanche sunset to create most of it, and then I'm going to see if I can make it pop with the medium yellow. I want to see how it comes out. I've not tried yellow before, and the whole reason I'm doing this is because I'm trying to build a colour swatch for how I want my yellow recipes to be. If I find that it's missing a mid-tone, or that final highlight of the soul yellow is really needed, then I'll go back and try it again, or maybe add it in at the top. But for now, we're just going to try these three, see how we get on with that. So without further ado, start with burnt umber, and I'll see you guys in a sec. Okay, so I've put the burnt umber on here. I had to clean my airbrush a little bit because those of you who have worked with white before, it can cause a few problems if you don't clean it properly, and evidently didn't clean it properly. So what I've got in here is I've got the smallest amount of burnt umber, just so that it ties in the next colour, because it's a very different colour. And then I'm going with the avalanche sunset. Now, what I'm going to do with this layer is, because this is going to be such a drastic thing, I'm going to try doing the panel highlights and see how it looks, and I might go a little bit more into the recesses than I usually would. So let's see how this looks, and I'll see you in a sec. Okay, so we've done that sort of half and half, and I mean I'm happy with it. That would probably be a better base colour. I think it probably might have been a waste just doing this one, but we'll see. We'll see when we come to the end. Every layer, I guess, creates something. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go straight in with the Avalanche Sunset, and this is what I am expecting to be the biggest colour on here. But I've got some nice darker yellows in here that will hopefully make the lighter yellows pop. So I'm going to clean out my hopper and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so you might be able to see that I've gone quite hard on this one with the yellow. It's still drying off at the moment. The previous shade wasn't as yellow as I wanted it to be, so what I've done is, whilst I still have left remnants of that in here, I've gone a lot harder with the Avalanche Sunset, to hopefully make the yellow pop a little bit more. We're going to be moving on to the medium yellow next, and this is quite a bright yellow in comparison. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to have the smallest amount left in here of the Avalanche Sunset, and then put this in here just so it ties the two colours together in hopes that it's not too garish. So I've got a little bit left in there. I'm going to add a little bit of flow improver because they're both airbrush ready paints, and we'll see how we get on. Okay, so we've let's see if we can get that colour a little bit more realistic, how it looks. We can't. It looks like I've gone super bright with the yellow, but I haven't. It's quite a warm yellow actually here. I can see now why Imperial Fist players say about trying to photograph their armies can be a pain. I hate how it's coming up on the camera because I feel like it's not doing it justice for how nice this actually looks in person. Let's see if we can get the tones right. No, it's still too bright. Yeah, still not doing it. I mean, it's very much a honeybee yellow, I'd say. But I'm really enjoying it. I think that's a really nice yellow, and I'm just gutted that it's not coming up as I see it on camera. So we've done the Avalanche and medium yellow crossover. So now I'm probably going to do a little bit of this, and I think I am going to use a little bit of this Soul Yellow just for the tiniest little pop on there. So yeah, we'll work with the medium yellow. Once again, I think we're at that point now where these two are, where it's going to be almost done. Sort of feel like it would be done. I can't decide. I say the camera's making it look far more, it's making it look far more like this yellow in real life than it's actually appearing, but we'll see. See if I can get some photos of it where it looks a little bit more realistic. So yeah, so I'm going to clean the airbrush again. We're going to go with some medium yellow and see where we go from there. Okay, so I think I'm done. Like, yeah, I don't think that adding that little bit of highlight's gonna... No, I think I'm okay. I think I'm okay with that. I think it's a nice warm yellow. It comes up super bright on the screen for you guys. It's not. Just need to sort my colours out. It's annoying because some colours come up absolutely perfect as they're meant to be and others don't. If you are a whiz with a camera and you know the best way to sort out getting your colours to appear as they should, then please get in contact with me. What we're going to do now that this bit's done is, once again, I've done some liquid mask on there. So let us get in the middle of the screen. Same thing. I've kept the liquid mask from previous on here, just so that it picks it up even better. And I'm just going to keep going around again, round and round. Now, one thing I have found with liquid mask in the past is that if you put it on in a thin layer, it doesn't pick it up as well, because it's on so thin that it kind of just falls off straight away. But I mean, that's not the worst thing, because you can get it off eventually, but it doesn't come off in that nice easy method that I showed you in the last one. But you can use it, like I said, you can use it like a little rubber, just to... There we go. A good thing about the yellow is that because when we're weathering, we're using a lot of browns and oranges. Any imperfections, you might have seen it, I don't know how sped up it was, but there was a little hair that got on there, and I had to try and get it off, and unfortunately I caused a few scratches whilst doing so, but luckily I just know that in that particular area I'm going to be putting a lot of weathering. Weathering can hide a lot of your mistakes. I'm going to try to see if I can get this again by wetting it. I've taken the end off and we'll see if it does anything. So I'm going to go right into this corner down here. I'm just going to turn it. Cool, yeah, that's better. Now maybe my old trick is not, I think I've put this on too thin personally, but I'm just slowly turning it and it's pulling the whole thing away. Oh, I've said that and now it'll suddenly just pop off. Just gonna keep turning, keep turning, keep turning. There we go. And you can use your airbrush to just clean that up, just to blast it off. But I'm happy with that. It's a nice yellow. So, after today's lesson, boys, girls, people of all ages, all sizes, after today's lesson we have a white and a yellow. So, as promised, what I'm going to do is, I'm really happy with those. They both came out really, really nice. I'm going to have a look at working on the doors in between videos, but yeah, they've come out really, really nice. And let's get the whole band back together. Okay, so here we are. Here are our 8 colour swatches that we've used. Now, as promised, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on screen for you the different colour swatches that I did and the colours that we used. And yeah, leave a comment down below, tell me which one's your favourite, and if there's one that you would love to give a try. I'm torn now that the white and the yellow are done. This one was my favourite because it's a colour scheme that I haven't done before, but I also like the Iron Warriors metallic one. The problem is that Iron Warriors metallic one doesn't look very nice until you start weathering it, because it's just loads of metals. So at the moment you just see lots of silvers and bronzes and bits like that. But yeah, leave a comment down below, tell me which one your favourite is, and as a little outro for this I will give you the colour swatches, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. In the next video I think what we're going to do is we're just going to do some paint work, really. Nothing too strenuous, it'll be a nice little video. Hopefully we'll have a couple of different coloured doors that I can show you how they work with these different colours, and yeah, then I think by that time we're going to have a look at glossing, then transfers, and then weathering. So there we have it, 8 different colour swatches. Hopefully there's something for everyone in there. If you've enjoyed watching this video, please leave a comment down below. Let me know which colour swatch was your favourite. If you have anything that you want to say, something that you feel I missed, or something that you feel a particular colour swatch you'd like to see in another video, I can certainly have a look at doing that. But yeah, thanks for watching this series. My name's SBJ, and I'll see you guys again soon. Thanks.